Hello and welcome. A couple of weeks ago, I found out L Catterton, a Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy backed private equity fund, had bought a minority stake in Polène. Initially, I thought, oh, okay. But very quickly, I thought, you know what? It really makes sense. But a couple of days, literally prior to finding this out, I had walked past the Polène boutique in Soho, New York. It's a fairly sizable boutique. There was a massive queue outside, and I thought, there's no chance I'm going to join the queue and take a look at the brand, because as you know, I'm not a huge fan of the brand. I don't think the quality is very good. But ever since talking about Polène together with Le Tanner and Maison Pocher, that particular video, which I'm going to attach above, is one of my most popular videos. It consistently features in my top 10 and it gets views every single day. So I thought, you know what, suck it up, go and take a look and see what's happening with Polène. And whilst in store, I made, what I think are two fairly major observations, which I'd like to share with you. I'm Anesu Sagonda, and I produce educational luxury content for anyone after the finer things, whether you're new to money and wanting to learn how to navigate the terrain, or you're young and starting out in life and wanting to reap the benefits of buying better quality from the get-go, or you're into luxury but wanting to focus more on high quality, under the radar brands, then my content is geared towards you. The first observation I made when I walked in was Polène is very good at designing bags with a fairly wide appeal. They have a selection of styles that are young, they're funky, they're trendy, they're current, they're fashionable, and they also create pieces that are timeless. I remember when I went into the boutique, I went in between two rainstorms and there wasn't a queue when I arrived. There were literally two people ahead of me. We waited literally a minute, 2 minutes before we were allowed in, one out. And the lady who was immediately in front of me was just a little older than me. I would say maybe mid-50s. And she had a bag, which I later found out was actually a Polène design. And she went in to look at the same style in a different color. And then she looked at other more classic styles. But there was a good mix of shoppers, young, middle-aged, older, and there was something literally for everyone. What I also liked and stood out immediately when I walked in was just the huge breadth of colors. Literally all the colors of the rainbow. They have classic colors, they have pastels, they have fairly bold takes, more muted hues. It just depends on the season and the take of the different color that they focused on that season. And I just thought, wow, I really like their use of color. There's a lot of color. The other thing that also stood out is the showroom itself. A fairly sizable, open, light, airy space, beautifully decorated. And then in the middle, they had seating space. There are a lot of typically men sitting there waiting for wives, partners who were shopping, and fairly comfortable, well thought out, well spaced seating in the middle. The final thing that stood out was the ratio of staff to customers. They do keep a queue outside because they don't want a lot of customers in the store and then you just have a lot of people and the store is overrun with shoppers. They try and keep the ratio possibly 2 to 3 customers per shop assistant. And I was never offered assistance by any of the assistants, which is fine by me. But if I needed help, there was always someone on hand who I could turn to and ask. I wouldn't have to look for someone or wait for someone, for example. And I like that. So they try and control the crowds inside. So they try and improve on the user experience. And once you like something, they'll go and get it for you very quickly. And then you're able to pay. And the process is fairly quick, and from my observation. And I really like that. And I thought, you know what? I think it's important to give credit where credit is due. The designs, the colors, the showroom was beautiful, the staff, they're attentive, they're there, they're focused. And I thought, you know, they've got something right. You know, one thing I've realized with Polène is they're consistent. Whether it's something that's right or wrong, the brand is consistent. The second observation I made was with regards to quality. If I may, I'm going to give a brief overview with regards to what is private equity, because this will help to better explain my thoughts with regards to the Polène quality and going forward. Private equity is a form of financing that's invested into a company. The financing could be money, it could be capital, for example. In this context, I definitely think it's money. I don't have access to the deal sheet. I don't know the terms of the deal, but I'm just giving a broad overview. So in this case, I would say it's money, because LVMH is the biggest luxury group in the world, and it has brands within the group that are incredibly cash rich. So I'd imagine it's money. And what happens with private equity is the private equity company will open a fund with the intention of raising a certain amount of money. Once that money has been raised, they will close the fund and then start investing that money. They will typically invest in private companies, so companies that are not listed on the stock exchange, and companies that have fairly high growth potential, which Polène truly does. With private equity, it's for a limited period of time that the investment is made. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, it very much depends on the terms of the deal. At which point, they sell the investment and the money is given back to the investors. And the intention is that they raise multiples of the initial investment, whether it's 2, 2.5, 3, for example. And then how L Catterton will be paid is off the back of the performance, a performance fee. So whatever the investment makes, they are paid a performance fee, so a percentage of whatever's made from the investment. So it could be 20%. So the more that the investment makes, the higher their performance fee will be, for example. In this case, they have just a minority stake, so they don't have a controlling interest in the business. They may have 1 or 2 or 3 seats on the board. They like the management. That's why they're investing in the company. They can work with them. What they are bringing is cash and the wealth of resources that LVMH have within the group. So that is the backdrop to this particular deal. With regards to the quality of Polène products, I picked up on a number of samples in store. There were a lot of new samples, new designs, new samples, but I also picked up on a few old samples, which I particularly like because they give you a good idea of wear and tear. Polène boutiques across the world, whether it's Paris or New York that I've seen, they're opening in London shortly. They tend to get a lot of footfall. They're in locations where there's a lot of footfall. I would imagine the New York location, depending on time of day, time of year, for example, they have between 200 to 500, even higher number of consumers who are coming in. And a quarter of them are handling a good number of the bags that I possibly will look at. So they get quite a bit of wear and tear, but it's fairly limited. It's just looking at the bag, turning it around. They're not exposed to weather elements or anything adverse. It's minimal, but it gives you a very good idea of wear and tear, how the bag will perform. What I really picked up on is the leather. The quality of the leather wasn't very good. Same as what I observed the last time. And I remember when I came back to London, I watched a couple of videos, content creators who had bought a couple of Polène bags, and they complained about the drop in quality of the leather. And what I noticed, the first bag, I looked at the handles on the bag. They were a little dirty and I thought, wear and tear. But the closer I looked at the bags, I realized the leather was actually peeling. And unfortunately, I used my iPhone camera, and so it wasn't able to pick up the level of detail I wanted it to pick up on. But the leather was peeling, and I thought, is this inferior quality leather to begin with, which is what I think. And then they have some sort of mesh they have in the middle to give the impression of thick, sumptuous leather. And that was almost confirmed when I looked at a strap, an adjustable strap on another bag. And I noticed that the holes on the adjustable strap, you could see the leather, it was starting to split. And I thought, imagine when you start to actually use the bag, and the bag is heavy, there's weight in the bag, and there's pressure on the holes. You'll start to see the leather splitting. So the top layer splitting, and then you have the meshy, soft filling in the middle. That becomes exposed, and then you start to see white bits of filler. And I thought, okay, so this is the quality that is bandied about as thick, sumptuous, high quality leather, which it's not. It peels, it has filling on the inside. It's just a cheap quality of leather. And then the next observation I made was with regards to the craftsmanship, the details on the bag. Whether a bag had legs on the underside to raise the profile of the bag, to also help minimize on scuffing, or if it didn't have legs on the underside, regardless of the type of bag it was, they all scuffed on the bottom. Obviously the bags without the legs on the underside scuffed a lot more, but there was scuffing throughout. And then what really stood out when I looked at the edge coating was, I noticed a bag and the edge coating was incredibly bad. The entire strap had cracked, chipped edge coating, and I thought, in a few months, with more wear and tear, you're going to see the edge coating develop gaps, and you can actually start to peel off the edge coating on the bag. And then I thought, there hasn't really been a change in the quality of the bags. If anything, there definitely is a drop. And that confirms what the content creator said, that there's a drop in the quality of the leather. And I can believe that. But regardless of, if I hadn't watched those videos, I'd have still said the leather is still not good quality. The same issues are still there. If anything, the edge coating was even worse. And I think that's just down to wear and tear, that it's a bag that had a lot more footfall, a lot more people touching the bag. So what does this investment mean when it comes to Polène and its products? Well, I definitely don't think we will see a change when it comes to the quality and improvement in the quality. The products are already selling at the inferior quality that they're at. L Catterton will be focused on cutting the costs, on improving the operational efficiency of the business, and on raising the profile of the brand. They will pump money into more stores, in more cities, the marketing of the brand, making the brand a lot more visible, the products a lot more visible, possibly introducing celebrity brand ambassadors, celebrities associated with the brand, to endorse the brand, to just raise the profile, make it a lot more visible, make it a lot more desirable. That is where they'll really focus. The bags are selling at the inferior quality. Why would they suddenly decide to improve the quality? They are a business that's focused on making as much money as possible. And if they can maintain the quality as is, which would be amazing, but I would expect they will reduce the quality in that they will go for cheaper leathers, so they reduce the costs as much as possible, cheaper hardware, cheaper inputs all around, so that they can then crank up the price and make as much money as possible, really increase the margins and make as much money as possible, and build a huge brand, a brand that's visible, a brand that possibly will be a borderline aspirational brand. That is what I really truly see happening. L Catterton, LVMH are huge businesses focused on being hugely successful, making a lot of money, and they're not in the business of being kind and thoughtful and thinking consumers are spending their hard-earned cash and therefore we're going to give them an amazing product. If they can give them an amazing product at a low level, they will, and that's exactly what they will do. I just hope they'll maintain the level as is and not drag it down too much. What we might see an improvement on is customer service. They'll improve on operational efficiency, the customer service, the returns process, how they deal with customers, and just improve that aspect of the business, because that then feeds into the profile, the impression, the allure, the appeal of the brand. That is what I see happening. And as I always say to my viewers, please become more discerning, more demanding with your money. Polène is a brand that has a lot of hype around it. That's what's helped the brand to gain the recognition, to get the money from LVMH and L Catterton. But when it comes to a brand that's really focused on producing a high quality, amazing product, fantastic details, exceptional craftsmanship, it's not Polène. It's very much a hype brand, and they're going to just feed on that hype and just build it into a really big, hyped up brand, and not a brand focused on quality at all. It'll be interesting to hear if any of my viewers knew about the recent development, L Catterton investing into Polène. Has anybody bought any Polène bags recently? What has your experience been? Do let me know in the comments down below.